I reminded the team is that we're 1-0. So good to get the win, certainly. Certainly didn't come easy. But just, happy to get the win. And saw a lot of good things out there. Clearly, a lot of things we have to get better at and work on. And we'll turn our attention to that tomorrow. But some really good efforts, I think, some good play. And, at the end of the day, we've all got to get better. That's usually the task in week 2. So pleased to get the win. I know you talked to some of the players that really performed well. Obviously a very unusual scoring line where you've got 3-2-2. I've never been around a game like that, but we'll take it today. And, kudos to Torrey, did a great job. I don't know if I've ever seen a punter be so involved in a game either, so it's kind of a little unique. But that's kind of where we're at, and I'll throw it out for questions.
At halftime, what made you, a lot of people were maybe not so pleased with Petras' performance. What made you decide to keep your faith in him?
It'd probably be the same category as a lot of stuff I saw last year. I just think it's more multiple than one player. So, and Spencer's practiced well. Thought he was, doing a good job out there, but we just didn't support him enough. We weren't clean enough, and that's something we're going to have to be better at next week.
Do you think that there would have been more mistakes made, perhaps, if there was another quarterback in there, where other than his interception, he wasn't a great performance, but at least he didn't put you into any adverse situations?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are playing hard, and they threw some stuff at us. So, you never know. We'll never know until somebody else gets in there. But, again, I just, evaluate what you see. And there's a lot of things that were going on today that we're going to have to get better at and get better at fast.
How much confidence do you have in Spencer moving forward?
I've still got a lot of confidence in him. And I think the noise on the outside is probably a lot louder than it is inside. I've got total confidence in him. He practices well. He's a great young guy. And, we'll be better. We'll be better next week.
Having the 2 wide receivers out, how did that affect the game, do you think?
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. It just makes it a little bit tougher for us. And we had a hard time, probably the biggest concern, I had a hard time protecting consistently enough or run the ball consistently enough today. So, and a lot of it seems like it was just kind of a rotation of issues, different breakdowns or different things that happened. And those are the things, that you got to really focus on and get cleaned up, certainly this week. And I think there's some reasons for it. We got some young guys playing and some guys that have missed significant time in practice. So, you're never quite sure what's going to look like on the game field. But, we just have to do a better job collectively, and I think then you get a better chance to evaluate what's going on.
Kirk, is there any update on Justin Jacobs' injury?
Yeah, I assume this is good news. It is from my vantage point. It wasn't a joint. So it sure looked like it on the field. And so it's soft tissue, and that's, those can drag out too, as we know, but at least, it wasn't a joint. That would have been bad.
How important, Kirk, was the defensive performance as a whole to maybe allow the offense to have some room for error in that sense?
Oh, it was critical today between that and the kicking game. And, they took the field in really good field position a lot. And did their job. They did what they have to do, kept them pinned up and, made them play a long field. So that in combination with the kicking game was really, a positive today. And a lot of really good efforts individually by a lot of people in both those areas. So that was good to see. And then, conversely, the disappointing thing, obviously 2 turnovers offensively start there. But the other thing is not taking advantage of good field position. We had that several times and just didn't make it work for us.
A lot of young faces, new faces on the offensive line. What went into the decision to rotate so many players, and what did you see from them overall?
That's based on what we see in practice, and I think we've probably got 7 or 8 guys right now that we're going to play this year. So, I mentioned we've had some guys behind the scenes that have missed time. So, we're just trying to learn more about them and get them a little bit more cohesive, and this will be a big learning day for them when they see the film. It'll be good for them.
Just in your estimation, how big of a factor is it that Nico and Keegan were not available? It just seemed to me you were extremely limited in that area of the game.
Yeah, you can't put a percentage on it. Certainly we're better with everybody healthy. We've never been deep enough really on either side of the ball, and I hate to have anybody out. So the reality is that, if guys aren't there and if you don't think they're going to be there, then, you just have to find another way to get the job done, if you will. And, I'm thinking of one throw there, deep end route. 3rd quarter, I guess, or 4th quarter maybe, where we just had a bad ball, but Alec Wick was open and had an opportunity to convert right there. So, more than that, and sometimes it's protection. We, just got a lot to clean up right now offensively.
We talked on that note with Keegan and Gavin. Those were the 2 guys, they didn't
Yep.
play. Do you expect them back next week?
Hope so. Every day's an adventure, but I thought Gavin had a realistic chance for this game. I'm not sure about Keegan at this point, but we'll evaluate again tomorrow and Monday and just kind of see where they're going, but hopefully we'll get them back at some juncture.
We talk about the play of Quinn Schulte and his first start and the two big breakups at the end of that.
Yeah, really nice plays, and you know, Quinn is just a steady, kind of quietly steady, but he's not a flashy player. But yeah, two really good plays right out there in the open. He's really practiced well, he's played well in special teams, and now he took the next step. And yeah, so we forget sometimes that this guy hasn't started a game. I felt the same way about Logan Jones, hasn't started a game yet they practice well, and you feel pretty good about it. So this will be a good experience for him.
You referenced Taylor earlier, but how do you detail the effect he had in this game?
Well, today was huge, just because the way he placed the ball, basically, and I think he missed one or two, and then the last one's on us. They went for the block, so that was on us to have him go put it in the end zone. But I've got on my card in there. I don't know how many times we put him inside the 10, then inside the 15, and that's huge. It's just really huge. It makes it a tough hill to climb if you're on offense.
And kind of in that same vein, when you look at a box score and see triple the amount of punting yards as total offense, just what's your reaction to that?
Well,
You don't see that very often.
it's good on the punting end. It's kind of like the way the score broke down. Never seen that before, but it's good from the punting end, and then clearly we have to get better offensively.
Can we talk about how the crowd affected the game, kind of like the Penn State game last year?
Yeah, it was, and that is tough down there. It is different. I'll sign on for that one. I know a lot of people feel that way, but that north end zone can get pretty raucous down there. So, and it factored in, definitely factored in. It affected their team, and good crowd and a good environment like that certainly factors in. Glad we were home today.
Do you anticipate Spencer being the starter next week, or is this going to be an evaluation over the next few days?
I don't anticipate any changes at this point now. So, our job collectively right now is get better. And, he's got some ownership. We all have ownership, every coach, every player, and that's our job to get better week to week.
Two players who were kind of in different spots were Connor Colby at right tackle and Nicky Young at guard. What did you see from both of those two in those respective?
Nick has played some there, and then we've been working him more that way since Connor moved out, and anxious to see the film. It wasn't perfect, but anxious to see the film, and then we'll coach off that.
Tyler Ellsbury, was he just not able to go? Because I know he'd been working in the...
Yeah, he's been working, but we just we evaluate off what's going on in practice, and we felt like that was our best starting lineup for today.
All right, I didn't know if he...
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. He's good to go.
What about Jack Campbell's performance? He's kind of been a guy who's tipped the field. Last year he did that, 12 got a safety, and he just seems to be stand tall out there.
He just does a great job at getting to the football, and that's, you use the word instinct, but instinct is study and film and all that, and then he's got an ability to really close fast. There was one play in front of our bench where he was moving. It just really closed it fast on the guy who had the ball, and he just never seems to get tired. He just likes playing. And he's a great leader in his kind of quiet way, if you will. But boy, he goes hard.
Deshaun got his first start, and he said earlier this week that a true freshman might play a running back, and that was Caleb Johnson today. How do you feel about both of those two and the challenge that they thrown?
I thought LaShawn had some really good plays and good runs. Obviously, ball secured on that one, but it looked on the tape or the board like that was just a great play by the linebacker. The guy did a nice job. But nonetheless, we got to bring the ball back. We got to secure that. But LaShawn's really practiced well. He's really grown over the last 2 years, and I think he's going to be a really good football player for us. And good for Caleb to get his feet wet today too.
Can we discuss
We're going to need all of them, at some point. Yeah.
discuss Cooper starting out at corner and he's bouncing between. What's the challenge there for him?
It's kind of like moving guys around the offensive line. Some guys can handle it and some can't, and just I'll say he does things with ease, but he moves around. He's pretty flexible in his play. He's a smart guy out there, but he's just pretty fluid and pretty flexible that way. So it gives us a little bit of versatility there. I thought Terry, really played a good game today too. It's the best we've seen him in a while. He's fought through some injuries and what have you, but both in the kicking game, and then also he played a lot at corner today, and good in coverage, but also played physical. Came up, made some good tackles. So it was, good to see all three of those guys perform well, Riley included.
Kirk, it'd be pretty easy for Spencer to impress a quarterback just with offensive production the last 3 games, going into Iowa State next week? I mean, how do you keep his confidence high, just going through the week of preparation, knowing the challenges ahead next weekend?
Yeah, I mean, this is a totally new year, so we're just focused on this game. But, you know, we all got to get better. That's the bottom line. And he'll get better as we get better as a team, and that's really where our focus will be. It is every time, you know, you go to week 2, hopefully you make a big jump.
How much are your fingers in the offense on game day? Do you just kind of let them go? Do you just trying to guess what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, if I see something I think I could be helpful with, you know, and everybody on the staff does that. Like, we're all trying to, you know, talk about this might be a good thing, this might be a good thing. But, you know, one thing I've learned through time, you know, somebody's got to call the plays, and get too many, you know, people giving advice or feedback. We do that between series, but, you know, somebody's got to call the plays. And, you know, quite frankly, if we're not executing well enough, it's tough to find things that are going to work.
Arlen probably had the highest workload of his career. How did you feel about his ability to be wide receiver 1 and also other returner?
Yeah, I mean, Arnold's a really good football player too. We just talked about Cooper, both of them young guys, and just, you know, does things, I don't want to say with ease, but he's really very fluid in his play. He can do a lot of things and do them well. He practices the same way, you know, very multiple, and it was good for him the first time he's returned. Same thing with Riley, you know, on the kicking game, for those guys to get some live work there. Because we don't do that live ever in practice, and thought both those guys, all those guys showed good judgment out there on the ball.
Were there any reservations putting him out there with the injuries at wide receiver, or is it more of
Oh yeah,
best
I mean,
players out there?
yeah, but we're a little thin on guys, so somebody's got to do it, and you know, we had total faith and trust in him, and I thought he did a really nice job. But yeah, you got to worry about that a little bit.
How do you think the depth along the defensive line maybe impact the game, especially in the fourth quarter?
It's one thing. We're in an unusual situation. We're thinning some spots on our team right now, and that's not uncharacteristic of any year we do it. But this is probably about as deep as I can recall us up front on defense, and I'd include the linebackers, that front 7 group. We've got, you know, pretty good depth there. We've got a lot of guys that we're comfortable playing. Talked about the linebackers, you know, with the starters out last spring. You know, the faith and confidence we got as coaches watching some of the guys step up. Jay Higgins really comes to mind there. And it's kind of the same thing on the defensive line. So, you know, you got arguably maybe 8, 9 guys, 10 guys that when they're in there, you know, they're going to play pretty well. And sometimes that just happens. It's kind of uncommon, but it's a good thing for us. So hopefully we can play to that strength, keep the guys fresh.
What did you see? Go ahead.
At kicker, do you still expect it to stay as Blom taking field goals, Stevens doing kickoffs, or is that not set in stone yet?
We'll evaluate it each week, just like we do every position. But it was good to see Aaron come back and hit that one, you know, because it's, you know, those things can weigh on you. It's not exactly, he's a veteran either. So first one didn't go the way he wanted, but he rebounded and came back and did a good job, and that was really pleasing to see.
Chris, one more?
That was what I was going to ask.
Oh, okay. Well, made it easy. No, it was a positive too. So, okay. Thank you. We'll see you
Thanks,
Tuesday.
everyone.
Thank you.
See you Tuesday.